Hey, what's going on, guys? What's up,
Do
Jorge?
it, Brian.
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Stress, man, to be honest with you.
Let's talk
I
about
Hi, what's up?
it.
Let's get into it. I just started a new offer. I think I told you through DMs, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
dream offer, like has everything I need to hit the goals I want. And it's I want to say my third or fourth day making calls, and technically I've made no sales. So I've only taken like 5 calls, but still.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I am just like really, really getting attached to I need to make a sale. I need to prove myself. I need to that. And it's not that the sales manager said anything. Like we actually reviewed one of my calls. He's like, "Wow, that was a really good call for your third call." Um, but I just like I had a deal that it just went to money logistics. Nothing we could do about it because his cards weren't working. We had been set to speak the day after. He ghosts. Had another deal that's a follow up. I call him up and he's super like defensive, super combative. Like, hey, I don't think that you should be asking me these things. I'm like, what came up? I'll just let you know. I've
Hmm.
just been getting a lot of like resistance, and that paired with the fact that I'm, not making any sales and it's a new offer and I need to perform is just a whole ball of stress.
Gotcha. So one thing that comes to mind and thinking of this, and I think is it Vila or Villa who's on as well. This might apply
Yeah,
to you.
Villa, yeah.
Yeah, Villa. So to you, in
Thanks.
like in any sales situation or like anytime you have a major outcome you're trying to go after, think of this concept of compression and expansion. So this comes back to universal laws, and that on every single pole, there's going to be two opposites, and they go and they swing back and forth between one another. So when it comes to effort and like mentally what we're trying to do, we push and we compress, and then we expand and we kind of and think of that like relaxation. So when you're going into a sale, this concept can be understood as like pressure to the client is if we're pushing, right? That creates a compressive force, and the natural response is to push back. So just understanding that concept now and thinking of your situation, there seems to be a lot of pressure over the outcome from you. Like internally, I've got this pressure. I want to go. I want to get this thing. And
Is just
imagine like you're spiraling
right. You froze.
the other individual. Oh,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yeah. Now I can hear
All
you.
Yeah.
right. So thinking of that compression expansion, if you're putting that pressure on yourself and compressing yourself down, then the way that you're showing up on a call and presenting might create a compressive force for that other individual. And that's where you can be getting like what seems to be like combative or like someone super defensive. So
Yeah.
in thinking of that whole concept, the question that I would ask for you is one, how can you release the pressure for yourself? And then two, how can you release that inside of the sales call? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean the application of it is where I'm kind of stuck because releasing the pressure for myself is just being detached from the outcome.
Yeah.
And logically it makes sense, but emotionally it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the like that's the paradox.
Yeah.
Is like I logically understand how this should work, but getting my emotions out of it,
Yeah.
that's a different story. So one of the ways that you can go into this just as like a helpful tip, I actually learned this from Xander Fryer about sales. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he had high impact sales, I think it was called. I'm not sure if he still runs groups for that anymore. But like I thought this was super strange when I first heard it years ago, but I wholeheartedly believe in this concept now of like prior to a sales call, he would go like recommend that you go into like a meditation and visualize the individual that you're going to be talking to and come up with like what do you love about them? Like research them. What do you love about them? Like how do you get yourself into this positive state? Just as a simple way to think of it.
Mhm.
So in that same concept, taking that time prior to a sales call, instead of putting the pressure onto you and like, here's what I'm going to do if this comes up, here's how I'm going to make sure I convert it. If this objection comes up, here's how I'm going to handle it. Like
Yeah.
giving yourself that internal dialogue to release it. We're like, I'm showing up to the sales call to serve this person. If it's the right fit, it's the right fit. If it's not, it's not. but I'm going to do everything I know I'm supposed to do in terms of like your action steps and your script and everything that you normally would do.
Yeah.
But it's that internal dialogue to pull yourself out of the emotion. And at first, it's going to be difficult. If you've never done anything like that before, you're going to find yourself getting pulled back in and pulled back in. And
Yeah.
that's where, again, taking that time prior to it for practice and like, how do I pull myself back out? How do I pull myself back out? And in that same vein, when you're on the call, if someone shows up with that defensive nature, I like how do I be childish with them? But in like a innocent way, not like like a
Well,
silly way. Like, how do I pull that
yeah.
pressure out by like, hey man, what's really going on? Like everything cool? Like, did something happen? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
like that's the second part is like when I get in the call, this is off the call, and I get in the call when I know I should be challenging these people. I feel like I don't do it because I'm shameful of it. 'Cause I'm like, okay, if I challenge them again, they're gonna feel pushed. We're gonna go back to the same thing,
yep.
you know?
So the way like so for me in sales, this is more sales than I guess mindset, but like I used to always try to be like again the curious kid. Like like it's almost like you have to do it authentically, but you want to come off like you're dumb about the situation, you know,
Yeah.
like hey dude, I'm just curious, like help me out, like what's the reasoning for this, or like how come you're going for this versus that, or you know, what's the hiccup so I can better understand. You know,
Hmm.
like you're coming at it from a truly curious standpoint of understanding versus trying to get you to overcome it. Does that make sense what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I typically come to the sales call with I need to tackle these person's beliefs. Even Matt called it out yesterday when I was on his call. I was explaining to him solution awareness part one. I was like, attack limiting beliefs. And he was like, what? Like, what do you
Uh,
mean attack? Like
so
take that out of your script. Yeah.
well, and that's why I honestly like I liked his stuff. And when I had my business, I had my sales manager go through Sales Sniper.
Hmm.
Is like I just like their laid back approach and like it's very genuine, you know. And in a world that people are getting sold everything all the time, I truly believe like that's what sets it apart. Like what sets you apart is your authenticity. So like instead of that pressure to perform, like release it and like fuck up. Like it's okay to fuck up. It's okay. Like, you know, like laugh about it. Like people like that real nature versus the like again, like the attack. They don't want to be attacked, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
It's
depending on like if you're coming in on a cold sale, especially, they definitely don't want to be attacked.
yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
So like again, thinking for yourself in those scenarios, again, ask those questions like we talked about in the DM for like journaling is how do I pull myself out of the attack mode?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
essentially, again, like this is like energetic stuff, but think of like you're not trying to take from them. Like why do you attack someone to take what they
Yeah.
have?
When I was writing about it, I realized that like I'm not attacking them because I don't like them. It's more so because like I'm afraid that if I don't, it'll bring up something of myself. Like if I don't attack their limiting beliefs, then I won't perform, and then I'll get fired. And so it really has nothing to do with them, you know.
It's all about you.
Whereas like if I had
Again,
like, $5 million in the bank and I just hopped on a sales call for fun, I wouldn't give a shit. I'd honestly like just call it the limiting belief very curiously, you know. So
so how can you put yourself into that state of mind prior? Because that's the beautiful thing about mind is it does not know the difference between imaginative reality and reality.
yeah. I
Like
don't know, to
that, you
be
know, like
honest.
so that's where like visualization and like similar
Mm,
what I was talking about prior to the call is, and I think I don't know if I mentioned this on the last one you were on, but like I used to do this when I would sell from stage, is I would bring a lot of money in my pocket.
yeah, you did mention that.
And again, it seems silly, but it was just a reminder, like an actual palpable reminder I could touch that like I have money. I don't need your money. And it
Mm,
doesn't like again, you don't need $5 million to make that a reality.
yeah.
You know, so whatever like thinking for you in your mind, like what's something to remind you of that, like that level of security. And it could be even like proof points. It could be, hey, here's what I've done before to give me confidence to do this now. But ultimately, we want to remove that attack mode because that like it makes sense. Again, when I was talking about that pressure, if we're compressing in, their natural thing is to push back.
Yeah.
You know, where in like one of the first trainings I did for this group, I talked about this spiral sales technique. Of
Mhm.
like if we're just constantly selling and pushing, you're spiraling them down. What we want to do is open their mind and expand them out so they can see. Like think if we open their eyes as wide as we can get them so they see the possibilities of what we're selling, then we can compress them into the outcome. But if we come in and just start pressing from the beginning, you're basically putting them into a hole that they're trying. What happens? You put an animal backed into a corner. They fight. You
Yeah.
know, why does an animal attack? They're afraid. So these little psychological, I don't know, sayings and like little innuendos you can think of, like how do you apply that to yourself so I can, hey, if I'm attacking, it's because I'm fearful because I'm in scarcity. How do I get myself out of scarcity? How do I pull myself into a better state of mind
Yeah.
before I go into the sale?
Curious, do you cover this in the book? Because I've been slacking. I've read like quite a few pages,
Mhm.
but then I stopped because I like my excuse was like, okay, I have to process this, and I didn't come back to it. But like, I have it right here. Um, so I think like the, do you recommend just me like taking a bit of time to read it every day? Like, does it pertain to this?
Yeah, like so that book, like so there's actually a series of books that I'm writing about all this. That first book is so you can help, like using my own story, you can reflect it back into your world and then find the puzzle pieces along the way.
Mm,
So it's one of those books where you can read it multiple times.
yeah.
But going through and like doing actually the main thing is doing the questions,
Hmm.
answering the questions and reflecting back. The second book I'm writing is more about this concept I'm talking about now of like inside of your mind, like your authentic self is a genius. And when you release the pressure from the external world, the internal pressure can release and you expand. And that's where you can start to leverage a lot of these principles I'm talking about. So like going back into like the days of like IBM when they first started, they used to train their salespeople on the idea that like a salesperson should always know what the client wants. Like you don't need to ask questions because I know what you're thinking. So when you start to understand these concepts and communication, it becomes very easy to navigate the situation. Just similar to like we do here is like
Hmm.
just based on your language, I know your thoughts because language comes after thoughts. So if I understand your words, I can figure out your thoughts and then I can figure out your state of mind.
Yeah.
But to get to that point, you have to first go through your own process, that's the first book.
Yeah.
So like I would definitely just go through it. I mean, go through it at your own pace, but just keep going through it.
Yeah. And actually do the questions and whatnot.
Yeah. Like
I mean, I
in,
journaled and it was definitely helpful. Like after that session, I felt like super grounded. But then I stopped.
Mhm.
So I got
like, and that's where like asking questions in the mind, why am I afraid? What's the hiccup of this? Because
yeah.
that answer you get from within is going to be the one that you need. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
A lot of sense. Yeah.
Helpful for you guys. I know James, you just hopped on, but like just understanding this concept of like putting too much pressure on yourself translates into the sale. What else? What else do you guys got, James or Villa? Um, the way that we operate here is I help you solve problems in the mind. So if you're dealing with something business life, tell me what's going on and we'll solve it.
Can
You
you hear
know,
me?
I can hear you both. I'll go Villa first because you're on before James.
Mine's kind of more general. Is it just based off the mind, or is it more sales?
It's more like I guess tell me what the problem is, and I'll tell you what's the problem in your
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mind. Yeah,
I
like
kind of
what?
I want to know your opinion on something. I've asked another coach, Chirag.
Hmm.
I want to know your opinion. Like, say if you're starting on like remote sales,
Hmm.
ticket remote sales, kind of the industry. Is it better? What do you think your opinion is on starting as a setter and like building your way up from there, or should you do something more volume based, like face to face sales, something I could, like the sales job more local to me. Like,
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of a general answer, but I'm thinking you can take from what I'm about to say and apply it to yourself. is I would
Yeah.
take the path that gives you the most amount of volume so you can gain the most amount of experience and therefore develop your skills the fastest. That makes sense?
And
Like
with
it,
that, yeah. So,
like if you want to move up the ladder, you need skill sets. So like what's the path that you're going to develop your skill sets the fastest? And I would take
okay.
that path.
So something like a closing role, but more low ticket that you get the beginning, the connection to the pitch and eventually taking the payment. Something better that has all the aspects rather than just setting that just comes up to problem awareness and then it's not you just book the call and that's it.
I would look at it as volume and like conversation because it's all going to apply. You know what I mean? Like I know it's broken up into individual pieces, but think of it as how do I talk to the most amount of people? You know what I mean? So if you have a setting opportunity where you talk to 300 people a day versus a closing opportunity where you talk to five, I would do the setting because you need to develop skills.
That makes sense. A lot, just more conversation with more kind of sales situations.
Yeah, like you need so tying this back to mind truly operates in patterns. Our whole idea of school systems and linear processing and linear thinking is very, very not how we operate. It's very bad.
How
So
is
you want to be able to see a lot of different experiences so you can identify the pattern. Because
okay.
just in the conversations and setting, you're going to identify patterns amongst leads and prospects.
Yeah.
Those patterns are going to then catapult you in sales to be able to sell better and close better. But if you don't get enough volume to identify the pattern, then you're always going to be looking for someone else to tell you how to do it. But the goal is to develop the skill sets from yourself that you don't need an outside source to tell you what to do.
So you can adjust. You can see the problems yourself and adjust.
Yeah, like so that way you like because otherwise you become a slave to the script or you become a slave to the person who's giving you leads. Whereas if you completely understand the mental processing from the patterns that you're seeing within the prospects, you're able to then go and navigate those on your own. Because you're dealing with high level concepts of the mind versus, hey, how do I apply this script to this situation? That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so get the volume in.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. James, what can I help you with?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I would say, so I'm a setter, and whenever I have a lead who has a lot of experience, usually people in the company find them harder to talk to, but I find the conversations kind of easier. It just makes more sense in my head versus somebody who is new and has a lot of questions. I don't really, I tend to speak too much to try and fill in gaps, and that's not good. How do you think I can improve that through role plays, or is it just volume? Just keep doing it.
So just so I'm clear, the problem is that when you're getting prospects that don't have a lot of experience being sold, you find yourself talking too much to fill the gaps.
Yeah, like their questions kind of take me by surprise sometimes. They don't really 100% know what we do, and I just end up talking too much and saying things that the sales manager doesn't want me to necessarily say.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's two things I would recommend. Number one is I would train yourself, and this is just by the habit of doing it, get comfortable in the silence. You know, like it's the old Adam of like, hey, the person who talks the most on the call loses.
Yeah.
You know, so when you find yourself in that moment where you feel like you need to talk, allow yourself, again, pull back this idea of expansion and sit and just wait for them to talk.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess you want to make sure you're not doing it offensively. Like make sure you've answered them if they've asked something. But give yourself that opportunity to sit in the silence and not be like again, not putting more pressure into the container itself.
Okay.
The second thing that I would recommend, and I don't know exactly like the tactical way of explaining this, but this is just something that I always myself try to do in sales as well as like in leading teams, is how do I communicate in a way that will result in the least amount of confusion or question? So like how can you get your communication to them so concise and clear, like that they understand exactly what you're doing?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think of I learned this from James Kemp, like clear is kind. Like it's better to be clear with someone and have it not be what they want than it is to have to be vague, lead them down a hole, and then they've spent an hour long with you and they're pissed.
How did you word that original part? How can I communicate in a way that is clear?
Yeah, how can you communicate in a way that is clear and concise that results in the fewest amount of questions?
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you.
So if some like if you're finding that when you talk about this certain aspect of the sale, there's a lot of questions coming up, what's the wording that you can change that you're basically answering any potential questions?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
thank you.
like if someone's asking how does this work? You explain exactly how it works in a way that they don't have anything that they could ever say back except for, awesome, that was so clear.
Yeah, that makes
And it,
sense.
and it's kind of similar to, I imagine why it's more comfortable with the more experienced people is like you can relax a little bit in knowing that they understand. Right. So like that idea, like you can give them this information in a concise way, it takes the pressure off of you having to over explain. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've written that down. Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else? I mean, since you guys are still here, anything else I can help you out with or you want to jam on before we jump off in a bit?
Do you have any general things that you believe that somebody in sales should know or adapt?
Yeah. Everything that you're dealing with that's a problem in your sales comes from your mind. So getting really, really, and that's what Jorge and I were talking about in the beginning, getting really clear on your own limiting beliefs, your own objections, like your own emotional states, and then getting out any sort of like mental emotional baggage or any of these things that are giving you a block in the business and in the sales process is going to pay off exponentially more than any sort of tactic or strategy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So really taking the time to develop that end of yourself as well as the skill sets around sales, like that's going to be your foundational piece. So like that's why like here we talk about this concept of mind and like realizing that, hey, this thing does a lot more than we think about and that we realize when it comes to communication and interaction, whether it be someone picking up on your tone, your energy, like that's ultimately it's starting up here. So helping yourself get clear up there is going to help yourself in every other aspect of the sale.
Yeah.
And then overall, like right now, I think authenticity wins. So, Bill, did you have something?
Yeah, when you say like work through it, kind of like develop your own mind and get clear of that emotional baggage and your own stuff you're going through, like what do you suggest like is a good way to do it? Is it something you kind of just have to figure out yourself, or something you work with someone where you just uncover the layers?
So I mean, you can definitely work with someone if you want to be talking with someone. I find the starting point is with yourself. So Jorge and I were talking about like journaling. So, and actually, I'll drop the link here if you guys want it.
Yes,
But I just
please.
I just wrote a whole book about this, and inside, and when you get the book, you get the actual journal that I use. So that way you can use it for yourself. But it's getting comfortable with this internal communication and dialogue to understand why you feel the way that you do. So in a simple sense, if you think about your life, most of your values and beliefs about the world were established before you were 7 years old. And a lot of it's based on where you grew up, like the zip code you grew up in, and the political, religious, and spiritual belief systems that your parents had. Obviously, over time, things develop and things change. But those belief patterns and those value systems and hierarchies exist on the unconscious level of your mind, which you're not consciously aware of up here. So what happens is you end up repeating these same patterns in your life, but you don't know why. And it becomes very frustrating because you get in, let's use relationships as an example, is you end up dating the same girl or the same guy and having the same issue, and then you go on to the next one, and it's the same thing. It's like Groundhog's Day. You can probably think of this in professional experiences as well. So the difficulty is that generally at a younger age, you also had some things happen to you that weren't so good. And it doesn't matter what good or bad is, it's your own experience. Like your own worst experience is your worst experience. So there's no reason to compare it. But again, that developed a belief about something, and it's generally from a 7-year-old perspective or like a little kid perspective. So by journaling and understanding your past, it gives you a new frame of reference on what happened. So the whatever that experience you had as a kid that made you too afraid to put yourself out there, let's say. When you look at this from an adult perspective, you realize, oh, it was because of this and that's why this happened, and they didn't mean it like that, and then you can move on from it. So it's literally changing your perspective on the scenario to a more adult version, which is much more applicable to your life today. Otherwise, you get stuck in the same patterns, which again, you've all seen someone who is a very high level CEO or business owner and they behave like a child and throw a temper tantrum or get upset over something that's very silly, or they're super self-conscious behind the scenes and their whole facade online is just literally a facade, and that's all part of that same process. So the way that you can overcome that and work through it is by, I call it doing the work. It's going back, identifying how these things occurred, and allowing yourself to let go of it. So that's what the first book I wrote is called Finding Me. It's all about how to end the mental battle that happens inside of many of our minds.
I have another question, Ryan, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so when it comes to identity, there's typically like, at least in sales, two schools of thought, right? Which is number one, like, I'm the fucking best, this, that, the next. And the other one is more so I kind of like think to laws when I say this. I'm not sure if you know laws, like super
Mm.
authentic, coach,
Okay.
coach Laura.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know the name.
It's like super like Matt versus Laura type of thing. Like
Yep.
Matt's like, I'm the best wherever I go. I'm gonna kill it. He is, by the way, but I'm sure he had that belief before he necessarily was the best, right? And then Coach Laura is more like genuine human connection. Not saying that Matt
Yep.
is, but there's those two discrepancies. And so I find myself kind of wavering between the two. And it gets to a point to where maybe like I go one side too much or another side too much, and it essentially becomes inauthentic. So what's kind of like your take on that? Like should you delude yourself into thinking you're the best before you are? Or
So like it's not like, I guess the way that I would say like and how to handle that is like you don't want to fake it till you make it, because you end up
Mhm.
faking it till you break it. Right? So if you fake it till you make it, you fake it until you break up here everything you've built there to construct this facade. But at the same time, you don't want to show up in an unconfident place. Like you don't want to think that you suck. You know what I mean? So I would describe it as like certainty in self. And that's where like showing up to that call, you're not there to attack and kill the call. You're there to serve that prospect and give them exactly what they need if they need it. And it's certainty in you being able to do that and communicate the message that's going to be authentic. Whereas like you don't need to be the best. You don't need to be the best at selling someone into it. I'm going to be the best at listening to what you need and providing you the solution that you absolutely desire. So again, like you don't want to try to be anything other than yourself.
yeah.
But when you've developed the skill sets, like you don't want to convince yourself you're better than you are. That's where it's like when I've put the work in behind me, it develops the certainty. So sometimes it might be a reminder that I've done all this work, which is why I'm certain in myself.
Hmm.
Like, well, Matt probably built himself up in the beginning mentally, which again, you might need that a little bit. We just don't want it to be something that you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then you end up falling into this discrepancy between like ego and what would be shadow, right? Where like ego is I'm going to conquer the world and take it over, which again, it's not everyone wants that. in terms of receiving that type of energy or conversation. Whereas shadow is like, oh my God, look, don't look at me. I don't want you to see who I am. No one, like most people don't want that either. So the goal and what I guess what you're going to find out in the book is like it's integration of all those parts. Because underneath all the voices is the voice, which is you. And that's what we want to show up with. So like honestly, that's how Matt does what he does is because he's authentic. Like
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like he believes that because he believes that. He's not making himself believe it. So like if you believe that, then hell yeah. But if you don't actually believe it, forcing yourself to believe it isn't going to help you. But doing the right things until you believe it, that's what's going to get you there. Like Hormozy talks about that too. Like, how do you get proof? Is show yourself every day that this is who I am. Like, give yourself the proof by completing the action, going and doing the actual thing, so it's undeniable. Like the first time I did this, like I was in fitness. I owned a gym for over 10 years. The first time I did a sale, I was scared as hell. I was not very confident. After I did thousands of sales, I was very like I had zero pressure for me to sell anything. It also depends on what you're selling. Like now, like again, when I was running masterminds and doing coaching and I was selling someone into trying to make them more money, and it wasn't exactly authentic to me because I like this type of work better, that was more effort than now. Like I don't sell anything. Like I'm showing up and I offer you what I can do to help. And if it's the right fit, it's the right fit. But I feel zero pressure to sell. And to give you like that difference of what happens is like people message me and ask to pay me versus me following up with them trying to get payment.
Yeah.
Like that's the difference between being authentic in that space. So making like that's where like alignment with the offer is important. If you don't believe in what you're selling, it's going to be very hard for you to show up in an authentic, let alone confident way to sell it. Because at the end of the day, if you're selling something you don't like over time, you're going to start to feel a little guilty about that. And then that's going to start to bleed through in what you're doing. So again, like you have two points to look at, but we want to find where do you land in the middle? Like you can have both aspects to it.
That explains it well.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Awesome,
All
guys.
right.
If you
We
need
got to jump off.
anything,
Man.
yeah,
Thank you.
feel free to reach
Yeah,
out.
thank you.
My pleasure, guys.
Thank you.